I always hated school, ever since I was a little kid. I hated the idea of it, being trapped in a room with a bunch of annoying kids for several hours every day, learning stuff that you'd actually never use in real life. It was a recipe for disaster. Fights, bites, bullying, you know, the usual. As I got older, my feelings didn't change. So, when I got to middle school, I started skipping class. I'd take the dirt path that broke off from the road to school and cut into the woods on my bike. Or I'd sneak out of class with a few other like-minded students and hide under the bleachers, where we'd play video games and goof off for a while. My grades were plummeting, as I was rarely ever in school. So when the time for high school came, my parents sent me away to some fancy schmancy boarding school to keep me in check. But you know what they say, old habits die hard. It took me some time, but I found a new clique of kids who showed me the ropes. We swapped out our video games for other things. Cigarettes for one. We met a few days a week at a secret spot on the outskirts of the school property and as usual, got up to no good. It was one such day that I heard it.
What do you think that is?
Hell if I know. Come on, Zach, pass the lighter.
It was a dark, guttural sound, the dying squeals of an animal being slaughtered. We stepped out of the cover of our spot to look for the source of the sound. It was coming from a clearing, just at the edge of the school grounds, just past where Mr. Friedman lived. Mr. Friedman, you see, was the school groundskeeper, a janitor in less fancy terms. He did most of the mopping and sweeping and fixing up around the school, and there was no one who knew the place better than he did. He knew all the nooks and crannies that students like me hid out in. He had even caught us a couple of times, with cigarettes in hand and everything. He never said a word though. He'd just turn around and carry on with his day like nothing had happened. That should have made more students like him, but that wasn't the case. Far from it. There was something creepy about the man. It was hard to put into words. He walked with a terrible limp and his skinny frame was always bent over in a hunch. He smelled like old boots and was always muttering things under his breath. Most students who saw him coming ran the other way. Others just kept their distance. And as I was about to find out, for good reason too.
You think Friedman's the one doing this? It sounds so brutal.
I don't know, man, but I don't think it's wise to stick around and find out.
Oh, don't be a wuss, Frankie. Come on.
I've never been this far out before.
Me neither. You think Mr. Friedman lives here? It's a dump.
I'm not sure, but knowing how weird he can be, I wouldn't count it out. Are you sure we shouldn't turn around? I've got a bad feeling about this place.
When was the last time you did something this intriguing, huh? You can run back off to class if you want, but I'm going in. Are you with me or not?
I'm with you.
I wish I had turned back then. I wish I had just gone back to our spot or back to class or something. Anywhere would have been better than here. We pushed the door open and it gave way with a loud creak, almost like a warning sign for us to get as far away from the shack as possible. But we didn't listen. I didn't listen. There was a flight of stairs just inside the shack, leading several meters downward into some sort of basement or cellar. It was pitch dark, so I fished out the lighter from my pocket to light our way down the stairs. When I saw what was hidden down there, my heart dropped to my stomach. There were about a dozen chairs, arranged in front of a blackboard, just like in a classroom. And the seats were, oh my God, and the seats were dead pigs. And they were all stuffed into our school uniforms. I covered my mouth with my hand, but Frankie had already fallen to the ground, throwing up all of his breakfast.
Is that supposed to be us? Oh my God, he's crazy. Mr. Friedman is freaking crazy. Keep your voice down, Frankie. He could be around here somewhere. We've got to get out of here, quick. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't you see that? Don't you?
Maybe it was Frankie's screams. Maybe it was just bad luck. But by the time I helped my friend back to his feet and to the foot of the stairs, there was someone standing at the top looking down at us. I couldn't make out any features in his silhouette, but as he came down the stairs, I saw his signature limp. Mr. Friedman had returned and he held a butcher's knife in one hand.
No. How on earth did you boys find your way down here?
We got lost. That's all. We're just on our way out. We won't bother you again, sir.
You got lost, eh? I struggle to find any good reasons as to why you were out here in the first place, but I'll let it slide, just this once.
I nodded and said a silent prayer of thanks in my mind. I tried to drag Frankie out behind me, but my friend had other plans.
You psychopath!
Frankie reached out for a stretch of wood that was propped up by the corner and swung at Mr. Friedman. But the man caught the stick and pushed Frankie into the wall.
All you had to do was stay quiet.
He picked the stick up, and in a moment I'm not proud of, I ran. I ran toward the door at the top of the stairs, but I tripped, and when I woke up, I was safe and sound in the school clinic. By my bedside was a note. Stay quiet. Stay safe. I haven't heard from Frankie in a few days now. He's been declared missing and the cops came down to the school for a search. I'm too scared to say anything because when I look over my shoulder, Mr. Friedman is always there, watching, waiting.
It was one summer morning. I just entered the class and found out our history teacher is on leave. Having a free period is the biggest joy to any student. So my friends and I decided to play basketball in our gym. There were fewer people in the gym that day. Most of them were buried in books or their phones. My friend Marcus passed me the ball and shouted, "Go for the basket, now!" I also showed my skill and made it happen. My group cheered for me, and out of joy, I kind of threw the ball, not caring which way it was going. The ball hit a student sitting on the stand wearing a hoodie. The student didn't say anything, just picked up the ball and threw it back to us. Feeling bad, I went to apologize. "Hey, I'm sorry, I got carried away, I guess."
It's okay.
"Hi, I'm Chad."
I'm Gina.
Knowing I'd hit a girl, I got even more embarrassed. Gina had her head down so I couldn't see her face.
Yo, Chad, the game isn't over yet, bro.
Marcus called out, and I rushed back, saying,
"Nice to meet you, Gina. I'll see you around then."
I went back to the game. Who was that? Some girl named Gina. I feel so bad for hitting her.
Is she hot? What? Oh, come on, you know what I mean. She must be new here. Let's talk to her.
Marcus has always been a flirt, so he dropped everything and went to talk to Gina. Now, all the other boys gathered around to see what happens. Marcus went to her while she sat in the same way, keeping her head down. I don't exactly know what Marcus said, but guessing his nature, he must have tried his corny pickup lines, and then suddenly, Gina stood up and removed her hoodie.
Ah! Holy smokes!
Marcus backed off, screaming in fear. She smiled eerily at Marcus and asked,
You still think I'm beautiful?
and then walked away.
Whoa, we have a psycho in this school, bro.
Don't talk like that, Marcus. Maybe she had an accident.
I'm telling you, dude, this girl's creepy as hell.
By the time school ended that day, everyone had heard about Gina, the girl with a stitched face. One thing, I was sure that my jerk friends are now going to bully her the most. The next day at school, we were having lunch at the cafeteria when I saw Gina eating alone. I felt a little bad for her and thought to ask her how she was doing. "Hey, Gina, right? You're settling okay?" She got shocked because she probably didn't expect anyone to come up to her and talk in a friendly manner.
Yes, I'm fine.
Hey, yo, Stitch Face!
Suddenly, Marcus called her names and everyone started laughing at her.
Man, she looks like her doctor failed medical school.
Good one, Talia!
I could see Gina's face turning all sad and humiliated. I had to do what I always did.
Guys, not funny!
Don't pay attention to them, okay? You're beautiful just the way you are. Gina got up and thanked me. She then gave Talia a cold stare and left.
What's wrong with you all?
No, what's wrong with you? All the girls in school, she's the one who catches your eye?
What?
Oh, come on, admit it. You feel the need to save her. But I'm telling you, Chad, that girl is bad news.
I argued with Talia and went to class. That day, I was feeling really upset to think how mean my friends were. To clear up my mind, I went for a swim. Generally, I do this trick to calm down my nerves. I stay underwater as long as possible and count to see how long I can hold my breath. I was doing the same thing that day as well. The blue, clear water of the pool was over my head. Suddenly, I felt like I was being watched. I lifted my head to look up and almost got a heart attack. It was Gina. She was floating upside down over my head, looking at me without even blinking. Ah! I gasped in fear and ended up choking on water. I jumped out of the pool, coughing horribly.
Sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. I thought you froze underwater, but then realized you're meditating or something like that.
It's all right. You kind of startled me. I should take a break. As I saw on the edge of the pool, Gina sat beside me.
It's my face, right? I scared you, huh?
No, don't say that. I'm not like my friends.
I know. You're the only one who treats me like a human being here.
If you don't mind me asking, were you in some kind of accident? Gina stared at me for an uncomfortable amount of time and then said,
Something like that. I'll tell you some other day. I need to go now.
She was wearing her dress when Marcus and Talia walked in.
What the? Chad? You want to do her?
Hey, Stitchface, how come you're so pathetic?
Shut up, you two!
Gina, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I got it, Chad.
Gina walked extremely close to Talia and said in a spine-chilling voice,
Maybe I should cut off your face and wear it like a mask. What do you think?
Sweats appeared on Talia's face and she replied,
You're such a psycho. Get away from me.
She pushed Gina into the water and left. I tried to help her, but she swam to the other side and walked out of the pool. I'll never forget the next day of school after that pool incident. We were all in class when suddenly we heard a spine-chilling scream. We all rushed outside and figured out it was coming from the girls' washroom. As we pushed the door open, we witnessed the horror. Talia was lying on the floor upside down, and Gina was sitting right beside her. She had something on her face. Her stitches were covered, and no, it wasn't makeup. Gina was wearing Talia's face instead. She had a paper knife on her hand with stains on it.
Now do you all think I'm beautiful? Tell me, Marcus, am I doable now? Tell me, you sons of witches!
Talia was sent to the hospital where she failed to survive the attack, and Gina was sent to a mental institution. I haven't seen her since. I sighed as I tossed my cigarette to the ground, stomping it out with my foot. This school looked like a prison, and I was sure I was going to regret coming here. It's not like I had a choice, though, as my parents had essentially forced me to come. All the stealing and gang-related activities I had done just hadn't sat right with them. My dad finally put his foot down after I picked the lock at a rich neighbor's house and stole the man's TV and jewelry to pawn them off at a local store for booze. The tall gate surrounding the building was intimidating, that much was for certain. As I stared at the building, the gates opened and a man walked out.
Hello, Dawson, is it? I'm the headmaster. Welcome to our school.
Hey, man.
You'll address me as sir while you're at this school, Dawson.
Yes, sir. Believe me, I wouldn't have addressed him as such, but the man was monstrous, with a face that could make you cower in fear. He towered over me, his nose long and hookish, his short hair at the top of his head a dirty blonde. His eyes were cruel, and his face seemed lopsided. The day passed quickly, and I soon found myself in my bunk, trying to get some sleep. Suddenly, I heard screams echoing from the hallway. I froze in fear, knowing I shouldn't go out and investigate, but I had to. I couldn't just sit here and do nothing. Before I could leave the room, however, I felt a hand on my shoulder. "You'll get in trouble if you go out there." "What do you mean?" "The headmaster punishes anyone who goes out at night. It's best to just stay in here and try and get some sleep." I stayed put, but the next night the screams came again. I had to investigate this time, so I quietly opened the door and peeked out. The long hallway was empty, and I slowly crept along in the direction of the screams. I finally came across a classroom that I was sure the screams were coming from and cautiously slid the door open. The sight that greeted me was terrifying. A shadowy figure was standing on the far side of the room beyond the desks. I couldn't see who he was whipping, but it was clear that he was whipping someone. His hand rose and fell, and the screams echoed in the room. I was about to shut the door again and go back to my bunk, but then the figure turned around and saw me. "Ah, what do we have here? You're going to get a punishment for being out after hours." I spun around, but I suddenly felt a hand on my shoulder. A teacher stood there, his face contorted with rage. "You're gonna get what you deserve." He dragged me into the classroom where the headmaster was waiting for me. "You will be punished for being here, Dawson. You shouldn't have snuck out of bed." "What the heck are you gonna do to me?" He grabbed me by the arm and dragged me out of the room. He took me to a janitor's closet and locked me in, leaving me to sit and contemplate my fate. "I'll be back for you soon, boy. When I am, you're going to wish you had stayed in bed." I was left there for what felt like hours. Finally, I remembered my lock-picking skills and managed to pick the lock on the door. I quietly escaped and made my way out of the building, jumping over the gates and running into the woods. It wasn't a moment too soon. I heard a frightening noise and commotion at the school, and I could hear teachers running and cursing with flashlights as they desperately tried to find me. I kept running, never looking back. Dodging through brushes and tall grass, I managed to make it to the highway. Catching the first ride I could find, I hitchhiked my way back to my parents' house. I told them everything. I begged them to let me stay.
Oh, I guess we can. Right, honey?
"You won't go back to doing criminal things?" "I won't. I promise I won't." At that moment, however, there was a knock at the door. My father stood and opened it. No sooner had he opened the door than the headmaster walked in. "You're not leaving this school, Dawson. You have to come back with us right now." My parents argued with the headmaster, and soon enough they managed to break the contract and sent me away, safe from the school's grasp. Or so I thought. A few days later, a van pulled up alongside me as I was walking to school. Several men in masks hopped out, holding bats and clubs. I ran as fast as I could, and luckily, they didn't catch me. "Get back here, you little brat!" But I didn't. As I looked back, I wondered how long I had until they would come back for me. How long could I stay away from that school and the headmaster? How long until I had to face those monsters again? I don't know how much longer I have. I don't think the headmaster wants me to be able to tell anyone about what I experienced at this school.